6. Caitlin Jones.
My jaw ached from trying to grind my teeth to nubs while I stared at the paused frame in my smart glasses. Jara, the matron of the wood, wore a placid smile in the moments before she flicked two fingers that sent Gemini Fowler into the abyss. I used one finger to trace the air from right to left in a slow, straight line to rewind to seconds before. Audio up. Despite being frozen in place, Gemini was still able to speak.
Can you kill me, Jara?
The NPC, matron of the wood, and conspirator in a plan to take control of Rubal clicked her tongue.
Alas, if Enora inserted special code into your avatar, Infinity Designs would have stumbled upon it. So no, I can't kill you, Gemini, nor any other player for that matter, but I can displace you until our business is complete.
Their business. The plan to put Priya Sky on the throne in Rubal. It made no sense that an AI wanted to restore magic to the continent because without it, Enora would be just like Earth was baffling. A side effect of sentience Infinity Designs never saw coming. The matron continued, speaking words I had already wound back a dozen times.
And since the new AI limits my movements, I must conclude my role here. Too bad your human instincts brought you. But if you've shown anything, it's that you learn from your mistakes.
The way Gemini's face twisted, I knew better than anyone just how pissed off he was. Furious, on the brink of murderous. Silly though it might be, I found my arched lip trembling in a kind of empathetic reflection of my former boyfriend's rage. His words reflected my thoughts.
I rue the day I met you.
Jara shrugged.
Your powers in Enora are limited. Accept this and you will prosper in Rubal. Interfere in the affairs of your betters, intercede between Enora and Infinity Designs again, and you will suffer.
The matron waved a hand. Gemini vanished. How the hell did she do that? I muttered. Where the hell did she send him? The man in the chair beside me cleared his throat, and I turned to find my uncle's face still cast in the same beet red it had been when first we'd stumbled upon Gemini Fowler's last moments in Rubal. Last visible moments, anyway.
We'd better find out.
Nokuro growled.
I almost wish we'd never made the AI self-sufficient.
You couldn't have known she'd do this. I mean, it's ridiculous. I still can't fathom why she'd care about magic. Nokuro shook his head in slow twists that seemed to indicate disappointment. That air of superiority that sometimes left me bordering on murderous intent of my own.
That's how we coded her to think, to care about her citizens, to account for balance in the world above all else. Now that she's trying to institute it, why should we be surprised?
The twists of his oversized noggin became wide sweeps.
If you read the entire history of planet Earth and helped create a world as lifelike as Enora, and your programming dictated you protect it, how might you behave?
It sounds like you're defending Enora. I slapped my hands down on the viewing station's surface, then pushed to my feet. To his credit, Nokuro let my moment pass before speaking. When he did, he delivered his thoughts in a quiet, easy tone.
What's done is done. We're launching in a few days, and we'll raise a barrier around Rubal. Jara herself said her role in the AI's ruse is concluded. If what she says is true, and Priya is surrounded by the Shadow Council, nothing we do is going to change that. So, we'll isolate the threat. Maybe it will work out for the better once magic is legal and the king is disposed of, but I'm not taking any chances.
What are you? Nuts? If you think those Shadow Council freaks with Priya lurked for decades just to give up their power once they'd been set free, you're delusional.
It's of little consequence. The barrier will limit any impact on the outside world. Rubal is tiny. The world is huge.
The wheels on my chair squealed as I pushed it beneath the station. So, you're still going to block off Rubal? He nodded.
I know Gemini will be disappointed, if he's even alive.
He's in there somewhere. Jara admitted she couldn't kill him. I stared at the grayed-out character sheet with the man I loved and lost to Lubrin's autoimmune syndrome, and Enora online, then frowned. Gemini said he didn't care if we blocked off Rubal. Didn't feel like he'd be missing anything if players never arrived.
All the better.
Nokuro stood.
We've got a launch coming. Time to get back to work.
What about Gemini?
Not to sound ungrateful, but he played his part. He distracted Enora long enough for us to evict her and put the twins in place.
The twins. The new AI pair representing good and evil in the world. Solara and Hokram. Well, you do sound ungrateful. You're talking about someone I love. I have to find him. Nokuro shook his head.
You can't believe Jara, and we can't find him, Katie.
I hated when he called me that. I let a hard stare do my talking. Uncle Nokuro waved a dismissive hand.
If you want to waste your time trying to find Gemini when every master coder in our ranks, including Juan Romero, can't, I wish you luck. Go get your boy.
I plan to. I'll just log in and hunt him down myself.
You're being ridiculous.
Our gazes locked, and a silent battle of wills new to neither of us ensued. After the longest minute of my life, I shrugged. Well, why are you still staring at me? My uncle sighed, turned, then paced across the sterile room of white lights and pristine surfaces.
The team has everything under control. The game is launching on schedule. If you want to go in and search for your boyfriend, gear up and go. I'm not stopping you. Hell, with Priya out of the picture, maybe you can finally admit how you feel and rekindle the relationship. He's the one being in Enora who isn't going to care when you disappear for 3 days at a time.
He turned a hand over.
To be perfectly honest, I hope you do find him. I just don't want you to be disappointed when it's verified the matron of the wood, who has done nothing but manipulate and lie since the day Gemini met her, also lied about her inability to wipe him from the system.
That makes no sense. Why go through the charade?
Caitlin, listen to yourself. Do you really believe that whole show she put on with him in the dark wood was for Gemini's benefit?
He thrust a finger toward the pause screen.
Zara knew we'd replay that interaction over and over. She was talking to us.
7. Gemini. There was a time in the early days of my new life, back when real pain caused questionable reactions, when my strategies fell short because of fear's influence. But I'd become accustomed to bruising, bleeding. Often I just sucked it up and waited for the heal so I could use my body parts. But after fighting an arena team for possession of Brumhill, just to have Jara reveal, she was near the center of the conspiracy to treat me like a pawn in the worst kind of game within a game. The hulking, fish-scaled son of a bitch stalking toward me elicited no worries, no concerns. No, that motherfucker was just the canvas on which I was about to paint a morbid picture to purge some demons. Hell, I welcomed it. I swept my sword in front of me. Fan out! But my team was already moving and formed an arc behind me. I twirled, swung my blade overhead, dipped, then rose. I was sure I looked like some kind of disinterested ballerina going through the motions. But my sword caught fire nonetheless. A white light flashed around me. The monster with the trident opened its mouth to reveal short, white teeth, jutting from black gums as it howled its anger over being taunted.
You taunt.
I not only ignored the system announcements, I disabled them, then focused again on my enemy.
Schwarten, level 34 sea creature.
Bring it, hooker, I growled way too low for anyone to hear. 10 feet from engagement, a bubble popped up around me. Roshan's work. Then, Amelia crept into view far on my right, sneaking in the shadows of the high pier. How she could evade the Shorten's notice like that, without even using her camouflage ability, was impressive. But my taunt had his attention for the moment, either way. Despite the wind whipping my hair to one side, the flames of my katana glowed in the beast's eyes when I brought it up, feinted to draw a reaction, then sliced its chin off. Blue blood spat from the wound. The magical trident turned melee weapon shot toward me like the tip of a spear, but I dodged to one side. A moment later, a swirling disc, no, a boomerang, cut a line through the wind, sliced open a gash above one of the Shorten's eyes, then disappeared in the opposite direction. The thick blue life force poured down to render it unseeing on one side. So, I swung from its blind spot. My rage finally broke free, every attack fueled by my hatred of Jara and how she'd used me the whole time. The realization Priya had never been mine, how they'd made her a pawn in much the same way, because of long past decisions she didn't even recall until late in the game. Too late in the game. My ire bloomed. I sliced. The Schwarten parried. I swept my blade up across my body, then down to create a typhoon effect. But the Schwarten rolled away from the area of effect in an impossible display of agility, especially considering its heavy, sand-bound tail. My frustration erupted, and I lost sight of anything else about the surrounding world. Strategy cast off, my vision red. I dodged an incoming swipe of his trident, and, when the slippery effect on my skill tree processed, our enemy froze in place. In a continuation of my smooth movement, I brought the sword over and down.
Encumbering slice.
When the Schwarten came out of the 1-second stun, it hunched down, stricken by the additional effect. But when I tried another down strike, the bastard blocked. So I pounded down again, forcing him back with repeated swings fueled by rage, not allowing him a moment to regroup. A crossbow bolt lodged in his shoulder, and its screech pincered my ears. But it couldn't break its focus on me, even when a green cloud rose from the wound.
Life-draining poison.
The beast dipped, twirled, then brought the staff up to slam it into my chin. I'd glanced at my aggro meter for only a second, and the son of a bitch capitalized on the opportunity. It was fast. The world blurred for an instant, indicating a partial stun as my ass planted in the sand. The action slowed. From the enemy's flank, Tsumi blew into her flute, but I didn't hear a thing. I did, however, recall the warming sensation of refreshing progression, which would heal me for 5% of my health for 15 seconds. The way she'd waited until the first attack to land against me to draw her instrument spoke to her impeccable patience and timing. I drew my sword across my body to prepare for an oncoming strike, but the Schwarten stepped back, clutched the trident with both hands, then thrust it toward me. The waves crashed down with rage. A long draft born of what must have been a huge wave surged higher than the rest, so my elbows splashed in the thick, salty water. This time, the tendril of energy surrounding the shaft and climbing toward the gem just below the three-pronged fork was the same green as the vapors rising from its wound, like Amelia had given him the idea. I rolled away, memories of the creeping nausea from poison effects motivating me. But the attack never came. I rolled again, then risked an upward glance before rising to my feet. The beast stood with its back arched, its long purple tongue spilling over its lower lip as its gaze locked skyward. A moment later, it slumped, and Amelia appeared wielding a dagger covered in thick blue liquid to its hilt. She dropped to one knee, raised the weapon, then planted it in the bastard's head to make sure it didn't get up. I approved. The stun effect wore off a moment later. My elven bodyguard offered her hand, then drew me up from the wet sand.
You really got your hackles up on that one.
She wiped the blade between a finger and thumb, slipped it back into its sheath on her left hip, then drew a rag from her inventory to clean her soiled digits. Her eyes never quite met mine, despite having to raise her voice to be heard. I got the impression she didn't want to offend me. But no, I'd told her early on to never pull punches. It was she who'd trained to end lives quietly and efficiently, since she'd been a child. And even though she was only in her early 20s, I imagined she did it as well as much older elves. Why else would Samantha have assigned her to me? For life, I might add. My rage of a moment before was replaced by a quick surge of gratitude as I appraised the angular features I often saw first each day. She snapped her fingers inches from my eyes.
You in there?
I was about to reply when Roshan slid up next to me. The wind whipped long black hair so hard it tickled my face. She snatched it, twisted it up again with a few deft motions, then slid it down the back of her robe.
What is it?
She asked, probably responding to how Amelia had just motioned. It's nothing. I was just taking a moment to appreciate all of you. We just annihilated that thing. If we don't count the shot at Machini, it only landed the one strike against me. The Mishon and Tsumi stood off to one side, jabbering excitedly, their health bars full. When the bard caught my glance, she strode toward me. The cat-like woman followed.
What is it?
The tall, dark, and gorgeous musician echoed. Seemed to be the question of the night. It's that you all kick ass. You impress me. Roshan shook her head.
This is not how you fight. Anger clouds your judgment.
She raised one finger before I could reply.
And do not trifle with me, Gemini Fowler. It is I who've known you longest and know you best. You must meditate. Bring peace to your mind.
Amelia squinted.
I would contest that.
Roshan's chin dropped.
You do not think he lost his wits during combat?
The elf's mouth curved in that way it did.
Oh, I think he totally cast his wits to the wind and they blew away. I don't know if I've ever seen him lose his shit like that.
Then what?
Meditation. Peace. That's not what he needs at all. Hell, he just told us an hour ago that his wife was lost to him. The mother of his child. You think he needs to do what? Calm down?
She shook her head, then took a couple steps forward and gripped one of my hands.
What he needs is revenge.
All heads jerked back. Tsumi's whole upper body accentuated the motion, then came back around.
I know I come from far out west, and we don't see many of your kind, but my childhood stories included grand tales of elven generosity toward the poor, steadfastness against evil, and your meditative communion with nature. Calmness in the face of adversity. I thought your people were all about peace and tranquility, the value of life.
Amelia chuckled, then sobered as she pulled me closer.
I suppose our leader is rubbing off on me. The notion I'll never actually return to Nin to live has me thinking like a human. The Queen would not approve, but we keep telling Gemini how he could be more like us when he's accomplished more than any one of us.
Roshan gave a single nod.
I hear you. But while revenge might be rewarding in the short term, it will never satiate his pain.
Revenge. Was that what I needed? Granted a moment of silence, I focused on the question. Upon whom would I be unleashing said recompense? The NPCs acting as a kind of spy network. For the former NPC, who knew how many there were? And that sounded like a hell of a big job. Would killing Lucera satiate the constant sense of failure, making my hands tremble in anger every time I conjured an image of Priya's face? Was it even possible? My gaze shifted to Amelia, and I thought about her queen. The plan we'd constructed to rally the people of Rubal against the crown had involved her surrender to the king. The elves had only recently come from the forest to involve themselves in the quarrels of men, and their presence lent a kind of mystique to the east, a sense of change forthcoming. Capturing the academy in Warrington furthered that idea in the eyes of the citizens. The way Samantia told me, Tsumi's was not the only culture who'd held the elves in high regard, and knowing Luttrell held her prisoner might help us rally people to the cause. That had been the idea anyway. It would be a long game. But now that I was aware of Jara's deceptions, the plan put in place by an intelligence that dwarfed us all, and how Priya had only been a tool put in my path to achieve the AI's goal, maybe it was time for a change of my own. When I realized I'd clenched my fists so tightly my fingernails dug into the flesh of my palms, frustration finally peaked. Maybe seeking revenge wouldn't solve anything. If Priya's place on the throne ensured mana flowed freely across the continent, my life in Enora could get really fun, really fast. My head twisted in short shakes before I realized I was doing it. They'd fucked me, and game or not, NPCs or not, I was pissed. Maybe I wasn't the most self-aware being in the world, but I knew myself well enough to understand the constant anger wouldn't abate until some justice was administered. It would just keep rising to the surface, and I'd inevitably make mistakes. Considering the position I held, those could be consequential. Hell, if nothing else, the gamer in me demanded action. All my love and respect, Roshan, but this conversation just decided me. There's going to be a lot of blood between here and Brusaria. Call it revenge if you like. But I say it's justice. The thing possessing Priya is going to return magic to Rubal, and we could just sit back, stay on our side of the continent, and bring the light to the east. But I guarantee you people in the west will suffer if it means Lucera, the demon possessing Priya, will meet her desired ends. So, it doesn't matter what we call it. Revenge, justice, recompense. Samantia is sitting in a cell in Brusaria, and we decided we were going to liberate the throne, once and for all. I don't want Luttrell on it, and I don't want a demon on it. If nothing else, we'll ensure the light shines upon all of Rubal, and not just the east. That should be right up your alley. Roshan's chin dropped, and her eyes flew wide. Then her face relaxed.
It's like the goddess spoke to me through your mouth, Gemini Fowler. If my calling is to spread the light, let us shine it far and wide to annihilate the shadows hiding Hokram's minions, then send them back to his fiery domain.
Amelia shared a knowing look with me.
Guess we should make sure that boat can cut through the water, huh?
When we reached the end of the pier and shoved the rowboat into the waves, Machini threw a leg over its bow. But I raised a finger, a sudden hint of cynicism creeping through me. Hold on. I scanned the boat's interior, searching for holes or cracks in the oars. If Enora's plan had been to keep me out of the way, then I saw it. Water seeping into the floor of the vessel. While it could have been caused by waves splashing over the side, throwing my leg over and applying some body weight confirmed my suspicions. Streams of water trickled into the bow from 2 leaks. Holes. It's not seaworthy. The AI bitch had wanted us to row out and sink, and I bet the undertow would have been a bitch. We would have resurrected in the mausoleum.
What now?
Amelia called out. I shrugged, turned, and stomped up the beach. All but the elf tagged along without being asked. The boat left to sink or be pushed ashore by the waves. When I drew close to the dunes, I sat, pulled up my knees, then wrapped my arms around them. I'd never been one to let my anger carry on. But how much shit was a guy supposed to take before it spilled over? I drew a breath of salty air into my lungs. Amelia leaned against one of the thick pylons in the shadows of the pier. Machini sat across from me, facing the lighthouse up the hill. Tsumi clutched handfuls of sand behind her as she stared up at the structure. Roshan sat guru-style beside me, her mouth relaxed in a natural upward turn on both sides. The line of light streaming from the tower still pointed toward the island. Although I'd never know what gave me a sudden nagging sense, I squinted to our left, where a line of rocks stretched from the beach to vanish into the sea. Wary of the possibility of more enemies rising from the waves, I walked back down the beach, passing Amelia on my way to the opposite side of the pier. Another long line of rocky coast pressed toward the sea's horizon. Amelia, who'd fallen in behind me, strolled up on one side but didn't speak. Time to make use of her elven eyes. I pointed toward the rocks. Do you see anything out there? She blinked. Her head tilted, then she stepped forward.
How did you see that?
I don't see shit, that's why I asked you.
There's another lighthouse.
I gazed through the shadows of the pier cast by the moons. The best I could see from my skewed perspective, the island sat dead center between the lines of rocks on either side of the bay. I pointed in the opposite direction, past the island. Do you see one over there? Amelia shook her head.
No, but let's get a closer look.
When we emerged from the shadows of the pier, Roshan, Machini, and Sumi joined in, but I waved them toward the first lighthouse instead of toward the rock line. If my suspicions were correct, there might be a third structure, but what if enemies lurked so we couldn't see them from the low ground? I wanted to see clearly. We strode back up the beach, mounted the stone stairs, then climbed toward the tower with the streaming light. Recalling the message about how the glow shrooms would only maintain their luminescence for an hour, I told them to wait at ground level and watch the light when I turned it. Amelia followed anyway. We rushed up the stairs, flipped the latch to free the disc platform, then swung it to one side in a slow turn. And there it is, folks. A third towering structure completed the points of a triangle that formed around the bay. I illuminated the path from the lighthouse to the beach, but spied no threats. Amelia crowded close, then swept my hand away from the stem so she could grab it. She jerked her head to one side, a nonverbal cue for me to move, then swept the beam past the island in the center and across so the light shone over the pier to the inlet's barrier on the opposite side. The third tower, probably the tallest of the three, stood sentry over a sandy trail dividing the rocks. How about that? I asked. When we exited the building, Roshan grinned, nodding her approval. But she wasn't wasting any time.
We'll have to split up.